Welcome to I'm Not Joking, the podcast where a behavioral scientist examines what it's like to live a humorous life. Glimpse into the lives of the funniest people in entertainment, business, and science as your host, Dr. Peter McGraw, explores their habits, motivations, and secrets to success. Get ready to fire up your brain and your funny bone. Now, here's your host.
Welcome to I'm Not Joking, the podcast that looks at the lives of funny people. I'm Peter McGraw. Today's guest is Neal Brennan. Neal is a stand-up comic, a writer, director, actor, and co-creator of Chappelle's Show. Welcome, Neal.
Hello. This sounds so edited. Like your that intro was like, hello. It sounds like you did that months ago and you just laid it in. But just know that this is all live and I could have interrupted that at any point. I was almost going to interrupt with when he said actor, because come on. But
You've done some acting.
I have done some acting, but it's not anything.
You know, I met you because of your acting. I don't know, you probably don't remember this, but it was in 2011 or so, I met you at Just for Laughs at a bar.
Yes.
And I recognized you from...
Oh, Getting Rid of the Greek or something, right?
No, I recognized you from a scene from Chappelle's Show.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
From when your head explodes in the black
Correct. Thank
white
you.
supremacists.
Thank you.
And we just started chatting.
Yeah.
And you liked behavioral economics. And so
I'm listening to a lecture about it as we speak. I'm listening to the great lectures.
Oh, you are? Who's
the guy? I don't love his speaking voice. I got it on Audible. I don't love the guy's speaking voice.
Okay.
But I like the information. It's so interesting.
You don't remember who it is?
No.
Okay.
It doesn't say. It just says the great lectures.
So I want to make an interesting observation about doing this podcast.
Yes.
And that is that...
Scott Hutel is the guy's name.
I don't know.
Sorry, Scott, I find you interesting, but I find your delivery a bit, I don't know, something.
Yeah.
Which again, people find me aggravating too. So sorry, Scott. Get in line, Scott. Get in line.
I read this book, Sapiens, recently.
I literally just finished it.
Isn't it?
2 weeks ago. It's fascinating. And it's also like, it could have been so boring. And none of it's boring.
It's beautifully written.
Yeah.
I binge read that book.
Yeah. I listened to it on tape. I can't even profess to read anymore.
He didn't read it.
No, but it felt like a guy. It's kind of a Richard Dawkins sounding guy. Like, it was good.
Well, don't watch him give a lecture.
Is he Israeli or what is he?
Israeli guy, but he's kind of he's really nerdy and
Yeah, no, this guy was like sort of, there was something regal about the guy.
Robust.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that guy, I underlined sentences in that book and just said, how can I write a sentence like this?
Yes.
It was incredible. So my observation is, I have a question that I ask everybody right out the gate.
Yeah.
And what's fascinating is that most people wait for the question before they say something. And what I find is that the more prominent the comedian,
the sooner they interrupt.
Yes.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
I can.
So congratulations.
I'm doing pretty well for myself. I think my reasoning for interrupting was, I think part of it is that I don't want to be a part of something boring.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'm like, this is boring. This is just information that's not entertaining at all. And anyone listening to it, if I tweet about it, inevitably what will happen is you'll go, hey, put the thing up. Would you mind tweeting?
Of course.
I tweet about it, and then someone who likes me goes to it and is like, I'm fucking bored. So I got in there. And spruced it up a little bit for you.
Yeah, I have other hypotheses about it.
Go.
Yeah, so one is...
I'm sure they're far more insulting than mine. Go ahead.
Well, no, so I think the issue is that comedy plays on misbehavior.
Also that, yeah.
And so comedians tend to break the rules. They break social norms, linguistic norms, and so on. And the most prominent comedians, the most accomplished ones, do that well. They do it better than the less accomplished comedians. And so then I think it pervades other parts of life.
I also think that it has to do with the more prominent you are, the more of these you've done, the more used to it you are, the more you want to mess up the hair of the interviewer.
I think I think like it's very class clowny in some ways.
Yeah.
And, it's funny because we were chatting before this about Jimmy Carr and kind of our mutual admiration of him. He starts asking me questions right out of the gate. And the thing about it is like, this guy is an inquisitive guy.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, I got a chance to talk to this professor.
Yes.
I'm going to get what I can out of this too. Because he knows what he wants
I
to
know.
say.
And also he knows what his thoughts are.
Yes.
He wants some more information.
Yeah.
I find myself doing that a lot. Like, I'll be on dates or dinner parties with people and they'll go like, I feel like this is an interview. And it's like, I don't know what to tell you. One person got kind of offended. The ring announcer, Michael Buffer. Okay. Let's Get Ready to Rumble.
Yes.
I had a dinner party with him. Uh-huh. And I just had a lot of questions for Michael Buffer.
I would have hundreds of questions for that guy.
Yes. And I hit him. I just went too far with like asking about his first marriage, what happened.
Okay.
But and he was a bit like, yeah, that guy Neal had a lot of questions. Which made me laugh. But yeah, like I'm not shy about asking people questions if I'm curious. But I don't even know what the premise of this is. So I don't know.
We're doing it. We're talking about your life.
I know, and I still don't know what the premise is. It's a litmus test, and then you tell me I failed.
So do you think that there was I think what happens sometimes is, the story that this is a secondhand story, but basically someone was saying there was like a panel, and these are all people in entertainment, mm-hmm. and the moderator is like, so what are you up to? And all the people on the panel are like, oh, I'm working on this thing. I'm working on this thing. And then like the most accomplished person on the panel was like, well, I'm just kicking around a few ideas.
Yeah.
And then like 3 weeks later, some huge thing drops.
Yeah.
Like, and I think it's the same as when I was a little younger and all this stuff kind of new, I was sort of eager to show off mm-hmm. and be like, oh, I do these things and all this kind of stuff. And now I sort of don't want to talk about it.
I had a moment.
Did that happen to you?
Of those recently because I noticed myself doing it. So literally last week, I was in Vancouver and had dinner with a girlfriend of mine, and we're walking past one of those weed places.
Okay.
One of those like legal weed places. And I was like, I haven't smoked weed since we were shooting Half Baked.
Okay. Wow. So that's 20 years ago. Okay.
So we get weed. We smoke it, and at no point did I say, hey, I wrote Half Baked. I almost, like, I thought I was gonna. You know what I mean? Like, I thought, like, hey, I'm like a weed celebrity. I mean, or something. I'm a weed, something. I've contributed to weed culture. And like, a year or 2 or 3 ago, I'm almost sure I would have said something. Uh-huh. And now, as of last Thursday,
right.
I'm now officially secure, Peter.
Congratulations.
No, just say I'm kicking around I've kicked around a few weed ideas. That's what I said. No, so I did see that as like I don't know if it's a turning point, but the other thing you realize about anything self-congratulatory is it will be used against you. Meaning, anytime someone compliments me mm-hmm. on Twitter or Instagram or DMs me, okay, I say thank you. There's a beat, and then they ask for a favor.
I see.
And it happens in person also. So you just get now it's to the point where I'm like, I don't want to even bring it up because then somebody will, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So there's this kind of, I think this is connected, and I think it has to do a little bit with, when it comes to some kind of careers, right? Mm-hmm. So early on in your career, you're just saying yes to everything. Like you're just you have all this outbound stuff. You're the one asking favors and you're the one who's doing all this kind of stuff. And then at some point, if you're lucky, work hard, etc., that switches.
It shifts pretty quickly though. I found it shifts pretty quickly. I mean, I found that Half Baked, and then it was all from that point on, it's been
now defending inbound.
Yeah, it's been incoming. And the thing I always say to people, and it's rude, but also true, which is I didn't move out here to do your ideas.
Now, do you say that to them?
Yeah. So, like, I don't want to do your idea. Because they've been told that, hey, if you get access to somebody, don't let that go to waste. People are always looking for ideas. It's like, no, I don't. No, they're not.
I guess the thing I always hear is let's attach some talent to this idea.
Yes. And that's they try to get me to, the thing they still try to do with me is it's like they try to Trojan horse it where they'll go, yeah, you're going to do it. And then I go and they go, so do you think you get Dave or Chris to do it?
Oh,
and it's like, oh, I'm sorry. I thought I'm like the girl who thinks she's getting by in her personality and like, no, I just want to see your boobs.
Right.
Like, and Dave and Chris are my boobs, or whoever whoever that person connects me to.
Yeah. I think it is interesting. I mean, for me, it didn't happen 20 years ago. It's happening a little bit more now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's it's nice. It's flattering. You know,
it's also discomforting because you have to say no to people.
Yeah, you disappoint people.
Yeah, like you're just, and that's I don't want to be the voice of like, no. Like, no, it's like, dude, we could have just left this alone. We could have left, but now it becomes this ask thing. Mm-hmm. I try not to ask people for stuff, or I ask as little as I possibly can. Mm-hmm. There are like certain people where it's like my friend was like, the girl that I smoke weed with was like, yeah, I went and I got my brother tickets to see Trevor Noah, and I was like, don't buy tickets for Trevor. Like, meaning there are certain people like I'm so close with, like the fact that someone I know bought tickets to see them is so insane. It's like, no, you can't do that. But so that's the only thing like I'll offer is like, yeah, if you want to go see Dave at a show, like, if my sister's not going to pay to see Chappelle,
sure,
you know what I mean, like, or Chris or whoever, Schumer, like, there's a list of people that like, no, you will not pay because I am really legitimately close with them.
Yeah, so I'm sensitive to this. So with my friends, I find I ask a lot, but I also feel like I offer a lot. And so in that way.
What do you end up, would this be friend asking? Doing this? How does this fall?
Well, actually, I mean, so what I was going to say is I start to feel bad when it gets out of whack. So, so I've known you for 7-8 years. Mm-hmm. I've asked you for many more things than you've ever asked me. And I think probably the only ask that I ever had that I feel hearing this bad about is you got me Clipper tickets once from Blake.
Did I really?
Yeah. It was fun. I appreciated it.
That's nice.
I don't know I can't remember how it came about.
Yeah.
But we're both NBA guys.
Yeah. That's like that's probably about the only, I think I asked Blake Griffin for tickets twice for myself. Uh-huh. One of them being you.
Wow.
I just don't.
I know.
Because I saw Charles Barkley do an interview a long time ago where he said the reason him and Michael Jordan are friends is because he's never asked him for anything.
Yeah.
They just, it's like, no, we just like, it's an understanding. So like, so I try to not ask people for stuff, but then there's also the thing of like, Blake had 4 tickets a game. He can, you know what I mean? It's like, it's simple text.
Yeah, I get it. But
I don't like going to games outside of New York. I just, the getting there and parking and all that stuff's not worth it to me. Whereas in New York, you can just take the train. So I like going to Knicks games.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, for me, I actually told a buddy about he flew in for the game.
That's so fun. Yeah,
it was really fun. You know what I did recently? I've largely given up watching sports. The NBA is like the last holdout.
Mine too, me too.
And it's actually not even the NBA as much as it is the NBA playoffs and LeBron.
Yeah. Like I think certain guys transcend. I mean, I watch Tiger Woods. Like I don't watch golf. I grew up with golf. I like caddied. My brother caddied on the tour. Like that. Golf is, I quit playing because I wasn't getting any better. Not interesting to me at all. But I do find Tiger Woods compelling.
You tune in.
Compelling enough to watch, yeah. And the NBA, especially the playoffs, I just like the league. I like the guys. I like the culture of it.
Yeah, it's easy to follow.
Yeah.
It's a fun soap opera. It's a soap opera for men.
Correct.
I feel that's how I feel about it.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm not going to elevate it as anything special. It's just a soap opera for men.
No. I think it is meaningless, and the divisions and the conferences like completely made up. There's no like, oh, the Eastern Conference is sharing information. It's not like the Axis and the Allies. It's just a bunch of like cities, random. Like, who has enough population? You get a team. There's nothing behind it beyond money.
So I want to ask you a question about Sapiens.
Yeah.
So
it's probably my greatest work. Go ahead.
The major premise in there is that what differentiates Homo sapiens from other animals is their ability to have imagination, to believe fictions.
Yeah.
And when you start thinking about the world as a series of agreed upon fictions, I think there's 2.
I lost a lot of them about a month ago. reading the book. It's just, that was like the final nail in the coffin. Of like, I had, with a friend of mine died, Charlie Murphy died about a year ago. And when he died, between him dying and Gary Shandling dying, and weirdly Brad Gray, who I did not know, but was Gary Shandling's manager, they ended up suing each other famously.
Okay.
For, it's in Judd's documentary that's on HBO.
I haven't seen that.
It's quite good, yeah.
Yeah.
And they sued each other for millions of dollars and hired Anthony Pellicano, private investigator, tapping Gary's phone. Like, awful, awful shit. And Gary died, and then a year later, Brad Gray died.
Okay.
And my first thought was, boy, that was a fucking waste of time. The fact that these guys were tied up in court for 10% of their adult life.
Yeah. And all that negative emotion.
Just vitriol and cortisol flowing through their veins, which is bad for your health. Mm-hmm. And Charlie dying made me think like...
And Charlie was 50
53.
Yeah.
Charlie dying just made me go like... my thought was, I hope he had fun. I just hope he had fun. Like, that's the only thing that matters to me now is the first person experience. Legacy is hogwash to me. Like, and even any kind of religion, I've been shaky at best in religion for like the last decade, but now, like, just reading Sapiens was like, okay, it's official. It's nothing.
It's funny how, I mean, he's sort of judgy about a lot of things. He's judgy about how we treat other species. You know, my guess is the man's a vegetarian. You know,
I'm vegan, so I was right there. I was right there with him.
Yeah, you know, it's sort of like his thing. I think the language he would use is that we enslave animals.
Yeah.
Right, that's the
I remember somebody did a joke, Dan Cronin, who now writes for Conan, but I remember he did a joke probably 15 years ago, where he said, like, what did chickens do to us? Like, treating them, like, making rings out of them and just like really manipulating them and torturing them. Yeah. And just like, okay, I don't love it that much. It's not worth whatever award I get for the price the chicken has to pay. And that's A, I just don't like meat that much. Uh-huh. And then B, like, what it does to the environment to me is like, it's not close. It's not like, oh, I have things that like my phone. I like technology more than I like meat.
Okay.
So like I'm fucking up the environment with flying on airplanes and lithium batteries. Right. And you know what I mean? Like I'm picking my poison, so to speak.
Yeah, it's hard to avoid.
And you also just realize the older you get, it's just mitigating hypocrisy. How much internal hypocrisy can I live with on a day-to-day basis? How much can I just like accept in myself?
In order to make life easier,
in order to just live with yourself, yeah. How much bullshit can I be conscious of that I'm participating in?
Yeah, you know, I mean,
or like negative outcomes for other people, negative experiences.
This idea of first person, right? Like, so, you know, my thing often is, and this comes up with politics a lot, is like, I want to enjoy my life. Mm-hmm. And so the more I get caught up in these things that I cannot control, clearly the less I'm enjoying my life.
Yeah.
And I just don't want to walk around pissed off all the time.
And that's the world, particularly the internet world. I had a thought last night, I'm going to try to write a joke about it, where like when Twitter started, it was like just a bunch of people writing about their lunch.
Yeah.
And now every single tweet is a knife fight. And I'm like thinking like, man, I wish people would go back to their lunch.
You know,
like I really wish, I long for the days of people tweeting about their sandwich.
It is true. I'm losing interest because it's become a dark place. Twitter used to be a fun, playful place. Yeah, I think. I mean, I get it. People think you got to pick a side. Yeah, you know, and so if you're not with us, you're against us. Yeah. I forgot my thought that I had about. Well, in any case. I want to ask you about your process a little bit, actually. So, you're a big joke writer.
Like I try to, that to me is the job. Like that's the most successful comedians ever were all the most prolific. Mm-hmm. It's just, it's a absolute direct correlation.
And how much do you sort of cultivate this as a practice, and how much of it is just
I have a show that I do every Tuesday in Santa Monica that you've come to, where I try to do, I don't have a minimum, but I feel guilty if I don't have new jokes.
So every time you're showing, that this day of the week,
tomorrow I have to do new jokes.
Okay. So will you try this knife fight joke?
If I can formulate it, yeah.
Okay.
If I can get it into, shape.
And what does that mean?
I need to just make it funny and put in things that will cue laughter.
Okay.
It will likely, the loose structure in my head would be like, because I already had a joke about how stimulated, I haven't even done it, but like how we're so overstimulated where I'll find myself, my computer open, my TV on, looking at my phone. And the joke is like, I'm not quite stimulated enough. I think I need to bring in someone to tickle my feet.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, how much more fucking input could I have? So, like, the idea of, like, torture, like, I have sort of that I didn't have enough to go with it. I just had, like, tickle my face. I just have a bullet point that says tickle my feet.
Or some other stimulating thing that might be punchier.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tickle my feet's funny, though. Like, tickle my feet's like, because it is about the same level.
Yeah.
Like, and also tickle is funny.
And I have bringing someone in.
Bringing someone in to tickle my feet. It's like I called a company. There's like enough things to go along with that. So then tying it to that of like, it's so much of it's so toxic. And it's really having such a detrimental effect on the country. It's the first time I've actually gone like, I might have to get the fuck out of here. And I don't even mean like, I'm not like, it's not my country anymore. It's like, no, this is just a bad scene.
It's a bad time.
It's just a bad scene where like, and it's not going to get better. It's to the point now, and Michelle Wolf's hosting the Correspondence Dinner, and she sent me her jokes, and so we were just talking about all that stuff. And I said, like, what I think part of what happened was we were fed Cold War propaganda for 30 years or 40 years or however. And then that basically ended in the early 90s. Then Fox News starts in the mid 90s. And now Republicans officially trust Russians more than they trust Democrats. And it's direct. It's like, well, because you just changed your diet. You just changed to like constantly railing against that side instead of this other thing. And it was like, well, that I just need a new enemy.
It is interesting to think that to have predicted that the narrative would be that the Russians aren't so bad and the FBI is to be distrusted.
Yeah.
That's a fascinating.
Yeah, and like what the internet's done, where it's given dumb people. I always hated conspiracy theories. I thought they were just so dumb, and they're based on like scant information at best, unreliable information, and hearsay, rumor, and then you go, well, yeah, but there's something anti-authoritarian about it because I got it from not the mainstream source, and it's like, no, that's like that's a mainstream faucet, and I live in that's where life is, in the mainstream. Yeah. And if you know about news organizations, they have editorial boards, they have like triple sourcing. These are not
systems.
They have systems in place to self-regulate. They're not perfect, but people are using their imperfections as the ad hominem knockout punch. Like, well, then they're everything's a lie. It's like, no, they just were manipulated by the Bush administration to sell or whatever. Like whatever your
belief is. Yeah. And I think till pretty recently there were decent checks on this stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I want to get back to this writing joke idea. I'm interested in a particular part of joke writing. You had mentioned Chris Rock earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I watched his special,
mm-hmm.
and in several parts of this is terrible for me because I actually enjoy stand-up comedy less now as an emotional experience.
Yeah, that's the pressure.
But the fun part of it is to see what someone's doing.
Right. Yeah.
And Chris in that special,
I exec produced the special. I don't know if you know that.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Well,
so I was like, gave input and a bit of shape to it.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
Clearly I didn't do my homework.
I mean, how could you?
You're everywhere. But he uses reversals a lot in that thing. So one of my favorite bits is he talks about taking his daughter to school, and they have a strict anti-bullying policy.
Yes.
And he said, I immediately wanted to take my kid out of school. And his point is, we need bullies, right? Reversal of what everybody says. Bullies are bad. He says bullies are good.
Yes.
Gets laughs, makes an interesting point.
Yes.
It's a great bit.
Yes.
In that way. I think that's like sort of comedy 101. Like if you were to take a class, they must tell you to. Yeah,
it's just hard. The bigger and more accepted the thing, the harder, the sort of more of the more iron-willed you need to be.
Yeah. Do you have a joke? Do you have jokes that play on that?
I don't really have. I guess I would be more like solutions and or like my thing about we got to fuck our way out of racism.
Right.
Like, solutions or.
So you pick a big problem.
Yeah. And again, this is not even something I think about. Solutions and or illuminating things via metaphor. Like the thing about someone having the Confederate flag and the American flag on their truck, be like having two tattoos, and this is the time whatever. This is how much I love Jeff, and this is the time I tried to leave Jeff.
Pointing out incongruity in the world.
I think that's more my thing.
I see.
If I had to pick. So reversals, I think there are a few guys that do that really well. Chris is one, Bill Burr is one. They're great. They're all great comedians. Mm-hmm. Chris is one, Bill's one, Carlin's one. Jim Jeffries is to me, maybe the best at it right now. I think Jim is so goddamn good.
I saw him at JFL a few years ago, and I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah, he's just an amazing comedian. Who am I forgetting? Mulaney doesn't really do reversals, but I think he's great. Yeah, like sort of Louis a little bit, Dave a little bit, less so. Dave and Louis tend to go more absurdist. Mm-hmm. Dave goes to my mind more. Although Dave, to me, the prototypical Chappelle joke is the thing about defending the joke he did about the AIDS monkey 20 years ago or 18 years ago, where he's like, didn't get it from a monkey. No one fucks monkeys and people. So he's basically defending the monkey's honor against white people.
Right.
Basically. He'll take on anyone white people are assailing. Like there's an old bumper sticker that I always said applied to him, which is like, I'm a fan of UCLA and anyone who's playing USC.
Yes, right.
Dave's like that. He's a fan of black people and anyone who's playing white people.
I see. Yeah.
That's a gross oversimplification, but I think yeah.
You know what?
And I think Bill Burr is more of a status quo guy. He just doesn't like anything accepted by the status quo. Chris really believes in like jungle rules. Like he really believes like we're so close to absolute incivility at every moment. Like I've sent him the Thomas Hobbes quote. I'm like, you're Thomas Hobbes. Life is brutish and short or whatever.
Yes, right.
Like he's the modern Thomas Hobbes, where he really believes like
we're on the edge.
Because as living in a horrible neighborhood, and then living in a horrible neighborhood makes you see like horrible behavior, and then seeing the way white people treat black people, you just go like, this is crazy.
Yeah,
this is a crazy world, and white people treat black people in general with such brutal incivility, and it's just based on I don't like your skin color. It's just I don't like your skin color inherently scares me, and I'm working backward from that, trying to justify that behavior based and trying to say it's all these other things, and it's basically this jungle thing of your skin color scares me. It's just different. It's so different than mine. I'm finding it impossible to overcome.
Yeah, I tend to think of humans as so whenever I'm trying to explain human behavior, I always try to think about it in terms of associations.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's what we're good at. Like, we don't have that much knowledge, but we're good at making associations.
Yeah.
Sometimes too good at it. And so we clearly...
Well, I just call it pattern recognition.
Yeah, same thing.
Where, like, it's, same thing. And it also is like, I did comedians in cars this year, and I was talking to Jerry about, like, pattern recognition. I go, there's about 50 kinds of people. Okay. And at a certain age, you've met all of them.
Okay.
And he goes, 50? Try 5. And I don't know if he used it, but like that's
not a bad impression.
Thank you. And I didn't even really put anything into it. I was flat-footed. So like that's the comedians are especially good at pattern recognition, I find.
Oh, and yes, and well, yeah. So this gets back to this idea of I'm using reversals as a case study. And you talked about other ways to do it, right? Things like exaggeration or defend, this sort of defense of... Yeah. Bill Burr defends a lot of things that seem indefensible. Because he hates the status quo.
Yes. He just hates... He yelled at me one time in public because I use my frequent flyer miles. And he's like, they're trying to spy on you. Don't you know? I fucking pay first class and I don't get the points. Like screaming because he hates civilization. He just doesn't like it's the Groucho thing of whatever it is, I'm against it. That's just the base. Groucho Marx has a song,
right?
Whatever it is, I'm against it. It's on my iPod, and it's just that it is the comedy ethos of like that's just what we do. We don't like the agreed to thing.
Yeah. So then to me, what's interesting is there's sort of. I think people who sort of naturally do this, like you just pick these things up, and then others who actually try to cultivate it.
Yeah.
So I've talked to comedians who go, okay, yeah, well, whenever I find a fact, I try to see if I can mislead the audience with a fact, like, and does it in a very kind of almost routine kind of way versus someone who sort of finds a premise, thinks that it's kind of funny, has some potential, and then works it through, but doesn't have a system by which they would describe that.
I don't have it seems like, what I was going to say about that joke earlier, the thing about
which one?
Pictures, the thing about going on Twitter and it used to be over people's lunch.
Oh, yes.
What I need to do is a long run. The ad hoc structure in my head right now would be a long run of chaos and then followed by, man, I wish someone would post a picture of their lunch. Like,
yes, I see.
I miss lunch. Like, that to me is like that seems like it could be an effective structure. Yeah. That might happen more in terms of like my process.
Okay.
That probably happens more than anything else, where I'll have a thought and I'll figure out the best structure, the best joke structure for that thought.
So you decide, okay, this is likely to be the punch.
And that's the idea. How can I get to
the thing that used to be so annoying about Twitter becomes the thing that you missed.
It's Jon Stewart. I saw him do a joke. Literally, this is how fucking old I am, about the LA riots where he was marching against there were marches in other cities.
Okay.
And he was marching in New York. And they started in Times Square, and they were like, fuck the police, fuck the police, fuck the police. And it just got crazier and crazier and crazier. And then John was, at a certain point, he was like, and at a certain point, I was like, where the fuck are the police? Like, that's kind of the formula. And I have a good brain for remembering jokes I've heard.
Yeah.
And so.
That's probably helpful.
It's very helpful because I can
keeps you out of trouble too.
Yeah, I still get into trouble, but I'm almost never wrong. Where I'm like, I feel like I've heard that.
Yeah.
And then I'll be like, I feel like I've heard that joke, and then I'm almost always right.
And you can it's pretty easy to find.
Now it is, yeah.
Yeah. One last thing about. I'm a big fan of Chris Rock, and it's on top of my mind because I've just watched the special that you executive produced. But I came across something on YouTube. I never had the full. I always thought it was fascinating, right? He got bused to this white school.
Yeah.
He didn't fit in there, but he also didn't seem to fit in at home. He was too much of a nerd.
Yeah.
And so on. He has some funny joke about how bad his neighborhood was? And
The thing about McDonald's?
You have a burned out
I
McDonald's.
literally tried. He opened with, because he said that to me one time. No, it's not they burned it down. It couldn't stay open.
That's right. It was abandoned or whatever.
Too poor a neighborhood to sustain a McDonald's.
Yes.
Which is unthinkable. He has stories like that where I'm like, you have to talk about that. And he'll be like, maybe in an interview or something. He kind of tried to open with it on the special.
Is that right?
But it wasn't formatted. It also seems impossible.
When I heard that joke, I was alone, and it was the classic mixed emotion. Like, I laughed out loud, and I felt terrible.
Did it get a laugh? Did he do it he did it on a talk show, right?
I think you're right. He did it in an interview.
Yeah. And it seems he said things to me on the phone. This is a classic. This is my point of view versus his suspicious of everything point of view. So we talk a lot, right? He's the only person who calls me.
Okay.
The only person who calls me on the phone. He's like, because voice is more important than it. And he likes talking bits out, right?
Yeah.
And I gotta admit, I find it helpful too for talking shit out. And we were talking about race one time, and he said something amazing, and I was like, I wish I could record these conversations.
It's a nice idea.
And he goes, why? So you can sell them? Like, no, you fucking paranoid maniac. I don't even know if that's black paranoia, famous paranoia. I don't know what, but it's this fucking paranoia of no, so I can help white people understand fucking racism. You fucking maniac. They're like, why?
As an aside,
yeah,
I love making phone calls.
Yeah.
I still talk on the phone.
You know what I find it more, Chris's thing is you got to talk to women on the phone because voice is a big part of attraction. And I think he's right. I like FaceTimes.
Is that right?
FaceTimes are good because, especially if you meet someone on Tinder or one of the apps, just to see what's their, how's their energy? What are they actually like? And it's not like being in person, but it's way closer than texting.
Yeah, I agree. I have 5 friends. I call them all the time.
Yeah.
I hop in the car. I call the first one. If he can't talk, I call the second one. And when I have girlfriends, even if they're not big into the phone, I can kind of get them into it.
Yeah. I think it's pretty easy to get women into it because it really is it is direct.
You are much more present on the phone.
They're into that sort of thing. You know how they are.
So I want to talk to you briefly about 3 mics.
Uh-huh.
So that felt fresh to me.
Mm-hmm.
It was different.
Yeah.
And it wasn't your you talked about being a joke writer.
Yeah.
But that wasn't all about jokes.
No. It's 3 mics had a lot of origins, but one of the origins was explaining to people why I'm not more likable. That's the truth.
Is that where it came from?
I mean, it was just I wish it's because I read so cold and harsh, and it's hey, you want to know why?
Okay. Yeah.
Here's why. Here's my emotional life laid out for you in a relatively organized way, the same way my sociological observations are laid out in my stand-up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying here's what I'm like. Also, I also know that there are certain guys, the guys that I've listed earlier, who are just faster than me. Who literally, if we're in a sprint,
mm-hmm.
they're just faster. I've written jokes with Chris. I've said something. The best example of Chris just being oh, you can run really fast is I had a joke that I was doing in my act, kind of a throwaway line, that if Biggie and Tupac were alive, they'd both be playing detectives on Law and Order. Right? Okay, good observation.
Right.
Funny, haha, whatever. Chris had a joke in Top 5, and he'd never seen mine, where he said if Tupac was alive, he'd be in a Tyler Perry movie kicking Jill Scott down the steps. That is so much funnier.
Uh-huh.
And my joke's 80% there.
Right.
He just got it the extra 20%. And that's one of those things of okay, well, what am I going to do? Some guys, LeBron's the best. And then there are guys that Katie's close. There are guys that are close. Then it's well, I'm not going to be the highest scorer.
Mm-hmm.
so I need to play defense.
Yeah, you just take good picks.
Yeah, I need to play defense and
shoot
so
corner threes.
Those other things were Chris D'Elia said something really nice about Three Mics, which is like he's like only you could have done it. He's like it's like only you could have done it. Like directing it, and it's all about. I've also seen friends of mine produce their ways into better careers, meaning they're decent performers, but they find like an angle and they just drill the shit out of that angle. Seth Meyers being the best example. He wasn't the best performer. He was like on his cast, he was like the 5th most likable person behind Wig and Polar and you know what I mean? Like just these like real Hall of Famers, but he's still and Sudeikis and you know and Hader and just all these like really and Fred and like fucking really good people. Keenan. So he was like, well, I can write my ass off. So let me just write. Let me become the head writer. He leveraged head writing into being Update and doing Update really well. And then the Correspondence Dinner. And then and when he did the Correspondence Dinner, he got me and Mulaney and Bays and like got the best team and produced his way into success. Which isn't to say like me and Mulaney and Bays did that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying figured out what his skill was and just did it hard. So my thing was I have a different thing. Let me do the thing that I'm most afraid of doing, which is like just saying I'm a star fucker, saying these things on stage, or saying I was hiding behind it. Saying, what are you going to say? In some ways, it's the Eminem, Roxanne taking your criticism and doing it myself.
Yes, right.
And because Chris is funnier than me, there are guys that are funnier than me, and it's like, but you can't think about comedy in a more dimensional way than me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. This happens in academia too. I do this. I do this dinner at this conference. I look around the table and it's like everybody at this table is at a better school. Yeah. Like had a better upbringing. Like I'm not supposed to be at that table.
By the way, I don't think anyone thinks they're supposed to be where they are. It's like LeBron always says, I'm not even supposed to be here. You're 6'10". You're 6'10", 260. Where else should you be?
Yeah, that's true.
Washing dishes?
Like, I
know what he means, but it's also like you're a 1 in a billion, physical.
Yeah, freak.
Yeah.
But the thing, for me, what it is I go, okay, well, I just need to find a different way to do this. Like, if I tried to replicate what you guys do, I'm sure
the ghost of Malcolm Gladwell hangs over every academic book in the world. I mean, I don't say that
in terms of writing.
In terms of popularity, writing, ideas, simplification,
the storytelling,
mass market storytelling. Like that guy's really great, and I'm sure it. So you got to figure out what's your version of that.
Yeah, what can you do well?
Yeah.
So in Three Mics, you were really quite vulnerable in that, right?
That was telling really my origin story,
Yes.
And
versus telling, on mic 1, you're telling jokes.
Yeah, mic 3, I'm telling jokes. It's not...
Or 3, I'm sorry.
Yes, but not everybody's funny, but there's a lot of good comedians. Mm-hmm. Like, legitimately, from the guys I named, and I didn't even mention, like, Gaffigan or Tom Papa or Dave Attell or... there's a lot, Gary Goldman, there's a lot of just really, or big, there's a lot of really, really good comedians. So it's also, everyone's funny now. So now what?
Right.
Now, what else are you? I know you're funny. I can get a good 45 minutes of stand up from anybody. Again, not anybody, but 30 people.
Yes, right.
But how many people can produce a show, and that's like the and be vulnerable, it's also using the bug as a feature. It's like I swift boated myself. You know what I mean? Like, what are you going to say? That I'm a flat performer, that I'm not dynamic, that I don't seem that happy or explosive on stage? Yeah, I'm not Kevin Hart. Kevin Hart's a fucking amazing performer and a really funny dude. Doesn't get enough credit for being funny. So let me explain why, and let me let you in. And as Chappelle says, the fans you made on Three Mics will literally be your fans forever now, because they know you.
Yes.
They know you in a way that they did not know you before. And it was able to get Seinfeld. And I was like, I was sure Jerry wouldn't like it. Positive, because it's not real stand-up. And he was like, but you did no one had ever done anything else. Yes. I was like, yeah, I know. And that's what's great about it. Like, so I don't even think I've answered. I don't think you asked the question before I big timed it. But
so it was it good for you? So you're saying how it was good for you for an audience. Was it good for you for you?
It was good. I'll tell you how it was good for me.
Okay.
You motherfucker. I'll tell you how. Let me tell you. You want to know so bad? I'll tell you. It was good for me in that it gave me a level of success, a type of success, solo success, that I never had before. And I have a funny, you're going to like this, I have good news. I have a funny Chris Rock story for you. Oh. And it involves me, and it's very insulting. And it's very funny. So the off-Broadway opening of Three Mics, Dave and Chris, it was, the audience that night was like Dave Chappelle, Chris Rock, Seth Meyers, Trevor Noah, John Legend, and a few other famous people I'm probably forgetting. But the big ones were Dave and Chris.
Does that make you nervous?
Yes and no. It was also one of those things of like, Dave reads warm, just like in our relationship. Chris is like, in like Shine, like the guy who's like telling me to play The Rock 3 over and over. Like he's like the hard driving, like, okay, again, he's like, so afterward, there's a photo line and me, Dave and Chris get our picture taken together. We walk away and, somebody comes over and goes, "Hey, Neal, the photographers want a picture of you by yourself." And Rock goes, "For the first time in your life," which is so goddamn funny, right? But it's also, like many things Chris says, also very true. Uh-huh. So it gave me solo success, that and writing for Saturday Night Live the week Dave hosted, because my knock on myself was that I could write single camera sketches, but not multi-camera sketches. That's how thin I was slicing myself.
Yeah. I've thought that about you.
Yeah. It's all single camera. How many cameras? We need a sketch writer. How many cameras do I have? And so I wrote the sketch where they're all watching the election results come in, and Dave and Chris are in it, and me and Colin Jost wrote it. Great sketch. And I was like, oh, I can write multicam. And I am a viable contributor to comedy. Uh-huh. And again, so stupid that I was still worried about that in 2016, but be that as it may, I was. So having the success of Three Mics and writing on Saturday Night Live and successfully writing on Saturday Night Live my first week ever. Okay. And was like, and Lauren was super gracious about, and like we kind of produced the show together that week. Like I picked sketches, I arranged sketches. He told me it came down to, at the end, it's like $12.50, and I was like, what's next? And he's like, what do you think? Like, it's pretty great. Yeah. So, cool. Like that. So it filled me up in a way that the voice in my head lost credibility. The negative voices lost credibility. The single camera people. Yeah. Lost credibility. And it also made me realize that the dumbest thing in the world, but external success is largely hollow.
Because it doesn't
fix any. It doesn't. I shouldn't say it didn't have any change, because it did, but it changed my interior. Yeah. It just was clarifying for my interior life, and so it wasn't like, and now I ride in limos. It's like, no, it's just I'm less insecure, and that has a good bearing on my day-to-day life. And values. It just, what do I value? It allowed me to go like, okay, I've done 3 things in comedy that I really wanted to do, which is a great special, and I did a great sketch show before, and then, having whatever the SNL part was like fortifying. Yeah. So now I can go, well, what do I really want my life to be? Okay. If that makes sense. Like, what do I want? So is this interacting with the Charlie Murphy. Yes, hugely. Because I've always I was like, okay, the thing I said to Dave on the way to the funeral, it's so macabre, but I go, Charlie's mud now. Shakespeare, mud. George Washington, mud. Mud. So before I become mud, what do I want this form of me to experience? And ultimately, it's all I want to experience is serotonin. I mean, honestly, that's the truth. It's like, I just want good experiences. And without being like a libertine and like, I fuck different girls at like, it's not one of those things. I just want to have good feelings in my body, which speaks to the sapiens thing of like, yeah, that's kind of the only thing that matters.
Yeah. Well, he makes this, he makes this case. I mean, he makes a compelling case that we overvalue evolutionary fitness because it's designed to create quantity, not quality.
Yeah.
And then he rightfully makes the argument.
Yeah, and also the idea that like, but French peasants might have been happier minute to minute. Because their expectations were so low. And he talks about that, the thing of, I don't know if he talks about it. It might have been in the behavioral economics thing, but the idea that you can only move dopamine only spikes when something exceeds your expectations.
Yeah, and so
you have to lower your expectations, and then if you want more dopamine, or it becomes the hedonic treadmill thing.
Yeah, so you have to find a way
or chase the dragon
to fight adaptation.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, he does a decent job with the kind of well-being stuff, but his point is a strong one about the physiology. Like he knows biology. Well, it works, right? Like we know that these we respond to pleasurable things in predictable ways.
Yeah.
And pleasure to some degree makes our lives better.
Yeah.
What he misses, I think, and is related to your world and to my world, is the enjoyment from creative tasks.
Yeah, I don't, because I've recently been like, I don't think I want to do a TV show.
Okay.
And I'm like, because it's too hard. The quality of life is awful.
Is that right?
It's awful. You're working 70 hours a week.
Okay. And
now the returns are so diminished because there's so many networks that like, there are so many shows where I'm like, you don't need to make that. Like, I'm never going to see that. I'm happy you got insurance and I hope that you got money and all that stuff. But in terms of like having a real impact, the impact is so diminished now.
Yeah, but I think,
But I do love writing jokes.
That's the thing.
Yeah, like I really, really love writing jokes. That's the thing that I cannot question. Like I really love, and I love being lazy. My dad said to me, my dad retired probably in his 60s, and he said like he used to sit and watch the stock channel.
Okay.
And he said to me at one point, he goes like, I'm a closet lazy person.
Okay.
He's like, I've been a lazy. He said, I'm a closet lazy. I've acted like I wasn't, but I am. And I think I have that.
Okay.
So my thing now is like, let's say hypothetically I had enough money. I would now what do I want to do with my time? And I don't want to be stressed. I just want minimal stress. And I don't want to live in Bali and I run a surf shack and like that doesn't interest me. Yeah. I like being mentally stimulated and I like I'm trying to be less competitive in terms of like less jealous and less kind of petty because it doesn't mean anything. Because the other thing that I liked about Sapiens that I pointed out, and I keep not letting you get to a point, it's my gift, is if you're a 5 on the happiness scale, 5 out of 10, whether you win the lottery or become a paraplegic, the set point thing, you're going to go back to a 5 more or less.
Yeah. And where are you?
I'm probably around 5.
Okay. I think you talk. Do you talk about that in? I feel like that's something you've said to me before.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm not that happy a person.
No. And also accepting that about myself.
Yeah.
And saying that about myself in some ways, playing defense against it, meaning like I said to my therapist a couple months ago, I was like, what if I don't get married? I don't think that's for me. I think I'm too much of a crank. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't like it that much. The rewards aren't great enough. I'm not especially lonely, and the rewards are not that great for the price that you end up paying that I end up paying in a relationship. Independence and all that stuff. So I am a crank.
Uh-huh.
So Rock calls me and we're a crank. And I go, crank. Like, that's our life.
Yeah.
So
he's like your bullshit detector friend.
I mean, it's also a black bullshit detector, which is maybe the harshest bullshit. Black male bullshit detector is the harshest.
Because, I mean, comedians are already bullshit detectors.
Yes, of white people, it's like, he's already got his knives out. So it's just like, so.
But you could tell the guy cares about you.
Yeah, he cares about.
Because if he didn't, he wouldn't say these things.
We've had that argument too, of like, I basically said, you're mean. Uh-huh. You're a mean person.
Okay.
And he made it like,
no, if I didn't care, I wouldn't.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm like, he was saying like, you got to be mean to people at work. It doesn't do well to coddle people. And I was like, because he cited some Bill Maher joke.
Yeah. He does this with his kids.
He cited, but I hear him with his kids. He's like, hey, beautiful. Everything's beautiful. He cited some Bill Maher joke about how kids are coddled. And I go, you guys act like you did experiments about what the best way to be with people is.
Right.
The truth is, you're an emotionally stingy motherfucker, and you're working backward from that and acting like it's the system. No, it embarrasses you to be nice. You have to come out of yourself. You're leaving yourself vulnerable to attack, and you don't want to do that. That's the real reason. It's not because he's thought it through and so-and-so did it to him. And it's fucking Eddie Murphy was nice to Chris. Uh-huh. It didn't make him a worse comedian.
Yeah.
Like, so I don't want this to be a referendum on Chris's personality, but yeah, so it's like I'm a 5, and that's, so I saw that Mulaney was hosting Saturday Night Live. John's a really close friend of mine and a genuinely great guy.
Okay.
Like, just a really good guy. Funny as shit, mean as shit, like, but also a good person.
Okay.
And I was happy, in the same way that I was happy I didn't bring up Half Baked at the weed place, that I wasn't jealous. I was just like, that's great, because I thought about what that experience would be like for me, and it felt stressful.
Yeah, I see.
You know what I mean? Like, what would I... And again, not like I'm trying to minimize my career so I never experience stress, but I would like to keep my stress level low.
Yeah, well, so some of this is about minimizing downsides.
Yeah.
Right? Versus maximizing the upside.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna do a quick lesson for the audience about well-being, because I think it's relevant to what we're
I'm going to
about.
make tea while you do this.
Okay. So I think the best theory of well-being is called the PERMA theory. This is an acronym.
After a man named PERMA?
No, it's an acronym.
Okay.
So it's pleasure in the Sapiens kind of way, right? Naps, sex, good food, alcohol, engagement, which is what we've been kind of alluding to, this flow state that comes from being kind of creative, relationships, connections to family, friends, etc. Meaning, having some purpose in life, curing cancer, whatever that thing might be, raising children, and achievement, right? So succeeding in some challenging way, right? So that might be fame, fortune, building a business, getting a PhD, those kinds of things. And the interesting thing about this kind of model, it basically says, is that there are multiple ways to live a good life, to be able to live the kind of life that you find to be good for you. And so some people are more achievement focused, and it costs them relationships. Some people are more artistic and are willing to forego pleasures and live in squalor in order to do this, and so on and so on and so forth. And I find that the key ends up being, if you're lucky, you figure out what is the right path for you, and then you just keep doing that thing because that's the right thing for you. What I've noticed later in my life is that the engagement part of that PERMA model, the creative part of it.
What's the P stand for again?
Pleasure.
Okay.
Which I like too. I enjoy it.
I just would have blanked on it within seconds. The rest of them I think I can remember.
Yeah, so pleasure, engagement, relationships, meaning, and achievement.
Yeah.
What I feel is, and in some cases, like in our world, the engagement and the achievement are actually closely connected. Right, because
Yes, ideally. I mean, I don't.
The better the jokes you write.
Yes, I mean
more
that
the
assumes
audience
that
is
my
happy.
process is more enjoyable for me than a bad comedian's process is for them, which I don't assume.
No, but it turns into it can turn into more success.
I agree, but
Yes.
that doesn't mean that my process.
Yes,
You know what I mean? Like,
that doesn't mean
might be the least funny person in the world if they're like gleeful. I know people that are not funny
and they
that love writing jokes and they're horrible at it.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. I feel like for me the big step can be, can I get to the place where I can write for the sake of writing? Not because I have to publish this paper.
Yeah.
Not, you know what I mean?
Is
Not
that a place?
like that. You could be retired and you might still do it.
Hypothetical, or that's a place that you have been and would like to get back to?
I've never been there, but I'd like to get there. And I think that, in actually tenure can afford that.
Yes.
Or, having enough
Also,
success.
you know what else can afford it? Which I think is underrated? Anger. Can you believe I think anger is underrated? Anger can really help with that because I was writing, I mean, that's largely what I do. Like, I'm writing, I'm hunting what I eat, but I got good money. Like, so I'm doing it, it's largely elective, right? So I am doing it to feed the monster, the audience, so to speak.
Okay.
But at the same time, like yesterday I was writing because I get to talk back to the world.
Yeah.
Like I get to just go like, no, that's bullshit. That's bullshit. That's bullshit.
Yeah.
And it comes from a place of anger, and it comes from a place of, you're insulting my intelligence. By saying this repeatedly, it's like a personal challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Of like, we're still saying that. It's like, shut up. Just shut up. Like my I guess that joke that I did of shitting on college and debt and all that stuff, I opened 3 mics with it.
Oh, okay.
That's a good, like, reversal where it's like, college is fucking not totally worthless, but pretty close. And Mulaney kind of finished the job in his new special. Like, he has a long bit about giving money to college and, like, what a waste it was in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, certainly I feel that tide turning with the cost of college and then the benefit of it.
Yeah.
This issue of anger, I think, is an interesting one. And it's related to you were talking about the success of 3 mics. I know as a younger man, actually not even that long ago, I was highly motivated by anger. Mm-hmm. I think of it as like the Michael Jordan.
Yeah, I'm going to show that. Yeah.
I'll show you.
Yeah. And
I had a good therapist who talked me out of it. I remember crying in his office because I was so scared. Because you missed your
anger so much.
I was scared to give it up.
Yeah, I bet.
Because I thought I'd lose my edge.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, if I stop using anger, what do I use?
Yeah.
And he just said, well, you do it because you think it's important to do.
Yeah.
And what he helped me realize was that yes, it may lead to achievement, but it's making my life worse along the way. If you fuel yourself with rage, then the other thing about it is, and maybe your world's different because you get much more clear feedback. No one, once I succeeded in life, no one ever came to me and went, Pete, I always thought you just didn't have what it takes.
You know what's funny?
And you showed me. No one does that.
I've had a few people do that.
Is that right?
I had one. I also did it to somebody else.
So you said to someone, I didn't think you had the chops.
I said to Donald Glover at the Emmys this year, I got to be honest with you, man. I was dead wrong about you. I was dead wrong.
That doesn't happen in my world.
But it doesn't happen in my world either. Because everyone goes, well, what did he say? He thanked me.
I'm sure he did.
Because no one ever says I was wrong.
I thought you were lightweight.
Yes.
And then
I literally said I thought you were shallow and vain. And like literally I told him what I thought. And he completely dispelled all of it. In the last 3 years, he's completely dispelled it.
Yeah.
And,
what a run.
No one ever says like, hey, I was dead wrong. And I'm not going to sit here and fucking Don King you and go like, I always knew it. I did not know it. Uh-huh. I completely underestimated you. And I wish more people would do that.
And so people have done that with you?
Yes. This guy, Barry Katz, who was a manager, and he owned the Boston Comedy Club, and I worked the door forum when I was like 18, 19. And it was like, I was sure you weren't going to succeed.
And that's a good bet. You could be 99% of the time betting against everyone.
And Rock has a little bit recently.
Okay.
My nemesis.
Your frenemy.
My tutor.
All right, so we've gone long, which I'm happy to do.
That's fine. We can keep talking.
Okay.
If there's stuff you feel like you want to get.
Well, I always have I have questions I actually prepared. I want to talk to you. You meditate.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
I meditate. I did sort of some kind of Vedic once a day, 20 minutes, for a couple of years. And then recently I switched to TM.
Mm-hmm. Which I don't know much about.
Because I just have heard most of the studies of what it does for your brainwaves and all that stuff is done on TM.
Okay.
So most of the scientific proof is about TM. So I was like, let me just do it.
Yeah.
And now I do it twice a day for 20 minutes each. I've been doing it 3 months or something.
Okay.
And
you're starting to feel.
I don't know. I don't know. I can't say like I can jump 3. There's no quantifiable. And now I blank. I will say I think I need less sleep, which is cool.
Yeah.
Because it does take 40 minutes a day. But I also really look forward to it.
Yeah. Oh, then you know.
Yeah. Even though I'm not good at it, I don't think.
I think it takes years.
Yeah. I don't think and Seinfeld is a big TM person. He was like, nobody's good. Nobody's good. It just works. Don't worry about it. He's like, it's like gravity. You don't need to know why.
Yeah. The research on this stuff is pretty compelling, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I started to do some meditation. I've let my practice lapse, but I was doing the loving kindness.
Yeah, I remember.
As a result, but some of it too. I
felt it, Peter.
Well, some of it is a matter of knowing where your weaknesses.
Yeah, and I think loving kindness is one that I need to do. I think that is one that because there are people that do TM and then augment it with other practices.
Right.
And loving kindness is one of those. It's like that's nothing bad's coming from it.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like.
Well, and also as someone who cares about look, if you care enough about animals that you don't want to eat them. I actually have a story about chickens in a case about them. This is how crazy. I'll digress for a moment. This is how crazy things are with chickens. There's like a famous Harvard Business Review case about pricing, how you price goods, and basically what happens is these pens that you put the chickens in is not nearly nothing like their natural environment, and so these chickens will basically like murder each other. They'll just peck each other to death. And so at one point in time, the solution for this was to basically cut their beaks off, which is incredibly painful and it's just debilitating to the chicken and so on. So some smart person, I don't know how they came up with this, figured out how to create contact lenses for chickens. And what it does essentially is it makes it difficult for the chickens to kind of
see each other.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's
facial recognition. Yeah.
And the entire case is, how do you price these contact lenses for chickens?
Yeah.
Yeah. But nowhere in the case is like, well, maybe we should just treat these chickens more.
We cannot. Well, we're not. No, that's impossible. That's not even on the table. We just stop doing this.
Yeah. So I didn't mean to digress, but I thought about when you were talking about chickens earlier.
I'm vegan mostly because of the human impact.
Oh, I see.
I don't especially love animals.
Oh, I see. Well, but the loving kindness stuff is pretty mind blowing. It's really empowering if you can do it, right? Because you start with yourself, right? Thinking loving, compassionate thoughts about yourself, then about people you care about, then people
you don't like,
and don't like you, then all beings, that. This is the progression, I mean, I think you could probably switch all beings and then put the people you don't like last.
Yeah.
But in any case, that, and because we're associative beings, if for 20 minutes a day you think compassionate thoughts about yourself and all other things, eventually it sticks.
Yeah. And I don't know what impact the TM is having because it is just mantra based. I literally just sit there and think of a mantra, think a mantra over and over and repeat it in my head over and over and over. I don't know what that does in terms of brain training. Mm-hmm. I'm assuming it does something. I assume it makes my because you find yourself, your mind wandering, and then you come back to the mantra. So I assume that it must have some positive effect on that mechanism in the brain.
Yeah.
Of watching your thoughts, being aware of your thoughts, and catching yourself and going like, you don't have to think that. This is not. You're not hostage to your thoughts.
Yeah, I don't know why it works, and I'm a psychologist. I should probably read up on what the theory is. I know why loving kindness works, and that's why I chose it.
Yeah, that seems direct. That seems like
I also saw it as a better solution for me. Like, so, there's these 3 classes of negative emotions that, that humans deal with: anxiety, anger, and depression. And
heard of them.
Familiar.
Uh-huh.
Anxiety and anger. So in order, anxiety is the one that gets me. It's now that I've read Sapiens, I used to call it the monkey mind. Now I call it the farmer's mind. Being vigilant, worried about these things, these threats that may or may not happen, planning all the time, that kind of stuff. Leads to some success, but it also leads to waking up at 4:30 in the morning.
It also, you can't control the weather. And that's probably the number one thing that a farmer needs to worry about.
That's right. And then anger, which I said, I've worked at I'm not a young man anymore. And so I don't have as much to be angry about, which is nice. And then I'm not saying this to brag, but like
the idea of young men having a lot to be angry about is laughable. And that, like, you're so far away from death, you stupid motherfucker. Like, what are you mad about?
You're not getting yours, I think, is that.
Oh, well, there's also that we're addicted to a finite commodity, which is sex with women. And I think it just makes you angry. You're an addict, and these people control
the
flow.
The supply, I guess. Yeah, that's interesting. So the third one is depression, and I am so lucky. Like, I do not get depressed.
Yeah,
and so what's interesting about this set point thing is I never drop that low.
Yeah.
So there is the ups and downs, but you eventually kind of go back to wherever it is.
Where do you think you are? 6, 7?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like a pretty energetic, pretty feel good person.
Great.
In that way. But I never get down into the 3s.
That's great.
Yeah. So, I mean, and some of that's genetic. Some, it's just like the way I'm wired.
I think a lot of it's genetic. I mean, just in me and my brothers and sisters all have very similar temperaments. Yeah, there's variations on anger. Some people have like certain characteristics more, but they're all the same. It's all the same deck.
Yeah.
And they're like our parents. My mom is sort of quiet and kind of like tries to be happy. And my dad was just an angry, cranky dickhead. Yeah. Just didn't want to have kids, just constantly irritated.
And you guys had 10, that's right.
Yeah.
I'm looking at my notes here. So Joel Warner and I wrote an article. I think we did an interview with you back around the Humor Code, and we referred to you as a polymath.
Yes. Do
you think that's true? Do you feel like you do enough things well to be called a polymath?
I didn't know you had to do them well.
That's fair.
So based on your question, I'm hearing some suspicion.
Well, I think it's hard to be a polymath.
I mean, I don't I'm good at stand-up. I'm good at writing, and I'm good at directing.
Neal, you're great at writing.
Thank you.
I'm being serious. Like,
yeah, no, I appreciate it. I've also worked with great people. So
when I first met you, I didn't think you were very good at writing, and then you convinced me otherwise.
Thank you, my friend. Yeah, so like there are so great at writing, good at stand. Like one thing's I don't know what how many things I need to be good at.
5.
I'm just kidding. Yeah, I don't know what you need from me.
Can you speak another language?
No.
Math? Can you do math? Actually, I mean, no. Well, I know. I actually think this is the whole point of earlier. Is like that tends to be overrated.
But there's also where I've gotten to, thanks to Charlie and Sapiens and all this, and a confluence of things, is to the perma thing. What difference does it make if I'm good at stand-up or great at stand-up or bad at stand-up? How is that the gauge? It's not, it's all external. It doesn't affect my experience. It doesn't mean Shakespeare didn't have a better life than someone who couldn't write like him. If he wasn't happy, it doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah, no, I think so. So to me, being good at stand-up or great at stand-up, I think that it only matters to the degree that your particular path in life coincides with that, right? So if you do really care so much about achievement, being top 5 or whatever this kind of thing is, then your goodness or greatness matters a lot. But if you're more of an artist type who's like just enjoys the process, then goodness or greatness matters less.
But this gets to the next point. The question I've been asking myself is like, why, like, and then what? Okay. Let's say I hosted Saturday Night Live. Would I get past a 5 forever? Do you know what I mean? Like, would I get now? The incriminating thing is doing 3 mics helped me. It helped raise my overall mood because I realized the futility of achievement and all that, whatever. But
you could let something go.
Yes. But it's what does it really mean? I have a joke with a buddy of mine who says that he's in a band and he's like, I just want to be remembered when we're gone. Mm-hmm. And the joke I have is, so Amir, that assumes that even in death, you're going to be insecure. Like, why do you care what people say when you're gone? I understand a genre comedy means a lot to me. I'd like to advance it. I'd like to raise the bar. That I think is worthwhile. Okay. But I'm not.
That's meaningful.
Yes.
That's an M.
Yes. But I'm not gonna make my life miserable because it's like Chris and Dave, just as an example, are funnier than me, right? I can say that empirically. I can say it. I just know that's true. So therefore, do I have to fucking ruin my life? Does my life suck? Because it's like, oh man, it's like they're not happier than me. Dave is, but like Chris isn't happier than me. Like Chris might, I don't fucking know. But I'm saying like that doesn't mean that their experience of life is better than mine. And that's the thing that I've come to, which is like, what are my values in terms of like, what are my standards? What are my ideas about what's fun and what's worthwhile? Because external ones I'm a little bit suspect.
Well, because you've been experimenting with it.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I mean, it's not a rigorous experiment, but you're like, oh, well, if I get here, it'll be like this. And then you get there and you go, oh, it's not as changing as I thought it would be.
Yes.
So here, I want to ask you this. So suppose you didn't get into comedy, right? So you can imagine a world where perhaps that you didn't get the exposure, didn't end up doing, working at that club, et cetera, meeting these people, and so on. And you were doing something else more normal. Yeah. Same problems, right? So now you're just puzzling over promotion.
I was always, when I was 14, they used to say I was like a little philosopher when I was a kid. Like I've always been... This thing ding for no reason.
No problem.
Except if I hit cancel.
But like if you could have become an academic.
I could have. I just think I would have had the exact same. My job is my thought process is my job. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? Like I've turned my thought process into my job. You have too.
Right.
Like so could I have done something else? There aren't that many jobs that you can turn your thought process and sell it.
It's a little bit of it's a bit of a boondoggle in some ways that you can get away with sitting and thinking and reading and observing and writing and puzzling over things, and someone will pay you to do that.
Yeah, that's what Chris again was saying the other day about stand-up, and I was like, dude, we get to walk around like Aristotle, and just like, I think the man's, it's like, what do you, and the fact that people then go, well, I need to do that. I need to make my life awful. I need to do 22 episodes of the show and da-da-da-da. It's like, what? Yeah. Cause the thing is, to the joke that I have with Amir, which is the being insecure even in death, no one's gonna remember no one remembers Pryor and Carlin. Like they do, comedians do, but like, it's just as this thing, as these pillars of like, I should watch him And I really, like, Carl and I lived through largely, so I got to experience it firsthand. But, like, the legacy, that shit with this culture, it's over. It's over. Legacy now is like 3 months.
Yeah, it does seem to move fast.
And so, again, I'm not saying, like, everyone quit their job. And I'm just saying what I've been able to do is see what I actually value and not take on the culture's values. Because the culture's values are just all about work, make money, buy things.
I've been trying to be focused not on adding, but on subtracting. So can I make my life better by removing things, not by doing more things?
Yeah. How is it?
It's a slow process, but I'm starting to feel the benefits of it because it gives me space.
Is it largely material things, books, packages?
Well, it's certainly not books. I'm actually, because I have more space, I'm reading more books than I ever have before. I've never kept books. Like, I don't have a big shelf of books.
How do you signal to people your intelligence level? What are you doing?
I wear my gown around.
Great.
But it's a slow process. Like saying no to things, you don't get the benefit right away. It takes like a year. Because you have fewer obligations and you're able to focus more on that. All right, last two quick questions. Actually, you might have already answered this one. What are you reading, watching, listening to that you think's superb?
Like I said, I think Sapiens is great. I watched Wild Wild Country on Netflix was really good documentary. Frontline on PBS, as always, documentaries. Listening to, I don't quite listen to as much stuff as I used to. Because of podcasts because of podcasts, like my music diet is largely, it's like minimal at best.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. I like music a lot. I just don't. It's one of those things of like, I don't know, man.
So you substituted.
When I get in the car, I would rather like fill my brain with ideas in that intervening moment.
Yeah, it's interesting.
More than, there are times where I'm like, I just need to not think, and I'll put music on.
Yeah, I think if I lived in LA, I would listen to more podcasts. You just spend more time in the car for longer periods. Last question is, what is the secret to success everybody knows but can't seem to do?
It's like diet and exercise is the key to weight loss, and the secret to success is hard work and persistence. It's just like, it's unfortunate because it sucks.
Yeah, the last actually interview that I did, this idea of perseverance came up, and we were quoting someone we had coffee with who said there are no failures in Hollywood, only quitters.
Well, yes, that's also.
I mean, that's taking that to a.
What's wrong with Hollywood? Which is there's a Jerry Seinfeld quote, which is, "In Hollywood, the losers never go home."
Yeah.
So it's like the flip side of it's the argument against your friend's observation, and far more cutting and probably truer. No, the thing with Hollywood is most people are not talented, and no one ever says, "Hey, you're not talented." It's always this thing. A buddy of mine, Nick Stoller, who wrote and directed Forgetting Sarah Marshall and Get Him to the Greek and a bunch of stuff, used to say every day in Hollywood is Christmas Eve because tomorrow
it's a big day.
Is the big day.
Yeah.
Tomorrow everyone's going to get the big prize, and most of you find people. I call people drink juice out here like performance enhancing drug. They're trying to optimize their output, and if I do the right juice and I'm doing a cleanse right now, and it's like, you're not talented.
Yeah.
You can get any kind of diet. It doesn't matter. I don't want to look at your face, and you're not interesting.
Right.
There's nothing you can do about it.
Well, so that's the point about the hard work and perseverance, that it's actually conditioned on some level of talent.
Yeah, I assume.
So
I'm sorry, I assume if you're not talented, the only thing you can succeed at is some sort of manual labor. I mean, honestly, if you don't have a talent, then you just have to, then success will be minimal. I think it's pretty proportionate talent to success level. I don't know very many, especially in comedy. I don't know many people that are he's so funny And so this guy kills there's a few people that kill every night and can't get it going because they have drug or alcohol issues or they miss their window or whatever. But like, I remember Sebastian Maniscalco 8-9 years ago would be like, all I can do is book birthday parties in the Middle East. And I was like, I told him, I go, dude, you're going to be the Italian Brian Regan. Trust me.
Okay.
Trust me. And he kept killing.
Yeah.
And he sold out Radio City 5 times or whatever. Good. You know what I mean? Like there's nobody who's like, you're so good and talented, but there are people that can't get a show on the air. There are like things but like, just if you're great at comedy, you're great at comedy.
Yeah. So the way I think about these is that these things are not, and this is a little bit geeky, but these things are not additive, they're multiplicative. And so right. So the 3 inputs to success, talent, how fast you are, hard work, how hard you train, and luck. Yeah. Right place, right time, right coach, whatever that thing is. And the idea essentially is that it's not an additive thing. It's not 1 + 1 + 1 is 3. It's
1 times.
It's 1. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
It's multiplicative, right? And so,
you're right.
And that's where that perseverance thing comes in, because it assumes that if you have that talent, then you can get the multiplicative.
Yeah, effect. Somebody was just telling me they were listening to a book on tape about procrastination, but a comedy writer friend of mine, Mike Gibbons, who's had a very successful career. He said that procrastination is the book he was reading posited that procrastination is basically just a continuation of the basic human need of going away from danger and toward pleasure.
Yeah, it's affect regulation.
Yeah, and so if you're procrastinating because writing requires facing your limitations and with a high likelihood of failure.
Yes.
So
it hurts to do.
It hurts to do. So you prolong it as long as you put it off as long as you can, and then the night before, the pain overtakes the fear. So that you're like, okay, well, the pain is going to be greater than the pain of not doing this is going to be greater than the pain of doing this. So then you do it.
Yeah, and the nice thing about getting experience is that thing that was once painful becomes less painful. Yeah. And so then you can start
or you at least know your way around the pain.
Yeah, or you know that yes, exactly. You can handle it. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And so but I don't think a lot of people know that comes, and it takes a long time. It may take years. Yeah. I mean, it could take years before it's like not completely painful to write.
Yeah. Or like, I have new jokes that I might try tonight or definitely tomorrow. And I'm not afraid of them bombing. I'm like, really don't want them to bomb. Okay. So that the fear never leaves. Absolutely. Yes. That's the part of the fun of comedy, is that there is a high failure rate, and and when it's successful, it's a miracle. Yeah. That's like, it makes people involuntarily respond, which is impossible.
Yeah. It's an amazing world. It's why I'm doing this podcast. Yeah. And we went super long, which was fun to do. Yeah. Thanks a lot, Neal.
Yeah, of course, man.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to visit petermcgraw.org for more information about our guest, show notes, and social media links. If you've enjoyed this episode,